Welcome to Wiretapped Truths, and today, now we got the famous the finger shape from Avon Barksdale coming up today. Um, Avon's so fucking cool, man. Avon's got to be one of my favorite characters. Actually, I'm Jesse Perez. I'm the host for Wiretapped Truths. I'm joined by Leland, Mr. Wiretapped Truths, and Jack Simmons. I'll let them introduce themselves, and we'll get on to game day, which over here in New York is like kind of like the rucker. I took it as the rucker. I was like looking on Reddit, and I don't know why people are like the hood doesn't shut down for a game, and I'm like, yes, they do. You ever heard of like the rucker?
Yeah, facts.
Yeah, so.
Well, I'm Leland. As Jesse and Jackie D, Mr. Wiretapped Truths. Glad to be here. This is episode 9 for us, breaking down the wire for you all. Just 3 rabid wire fans who love it on a different level than just watching it. As you can see, we come together every week to give you these breakdowns, and the 3 of us talk every single day to get this stuff out to you all and put these ideas together for you all. We recently just cracked 40,000 views on our channel in about 8 weeks, 7 or 8 weeks, something like that. And we just crossed the 100 subscriber mark. So we are very blessed, very humble for everybody that's been tuning in, tapping in with us. We've got some stuff that we still want to bring you all, interacting with the fans. We're just planning it out on our end, So you all just stay tuned with us. Thank you for the journey, and I will let our resident moderator and narrator Jack introduce himself and take us through the episode.
Howdy, y'all. I am Jack Simmons. Pleasure to be with you guys on this wonderful Sunday morning, a late July day. I really
August.
Oh yeah,
August.
I fucking wow. That's right. It's August. Okay, yeah. Goddamn, dude. Time is an illusion, right? Or time is a flat circle, as Rust would say in True Detective season 1. Before we got into that, I like that when we interviewed Halito, talked about True Detective being good, but I finished season 4 of True Detective. Yeah, it was terrible, but season 1 was great. Yeah. So yeah, man, this episode, I love every episode, but this one is good. It's called Game Day. And I want to start off by mentioning one thing that's great about this is the attention to detail. You can tell that the weather is starting to get warmer in the season. When the first episode started off, it was like late fall, winter time. Everyone was wearing coats. Everyone's all bundled up. This one, everyone's in like t-shirts.
Yeah.
And so it's like, late. I took it as like.
That's about right. It's been 3 months to kind of put a time perspective on. I caught that from the episode too. It's been 3 months since they've been on Barksdale, so that kind of would line up.
If it was like
started,
so if it was like February, when it started, it's like May, because even Avon mentions it's 85 degrees outside. We're all playing basketball, so the episode is Game Day. The quote is by Herc. His first quote of the show. Getting there is maybe we won. And it starts off that Avon and Stringer are at a gymnasium. Help me out here. Are they at like a local college that they're at?
I think
right?
A local community college.
That's what I took it as, know. And they're watching this amazing player comment. He was like, he's they're trying to recruit him onto their game, essentially. Who's like basically a scout who's bringing him over to them. And while they're doing that, they're talking about Omar and saying like, what are we supposed to do with that? And Stringer says we should wait because Omar is easy to evade, and so he has everyone scared. And he's basically saying like, if Omar knows that people are coming to get him, he's going to evade us pretty easily, and he'll slip out, no longer suspecting anything. Then we kill him, And Avon's basically saying, well, no, because then we're going to look like a bunch of pussies if people know that this guy is out here robbing us blind, and it kind of shows the difference of philosophies. You know, Stringer doesn't really care as much about it, more about the practicality and logistics. You know, he's like, how do we get this done? It doesn't matter at the end what we look like. It matters that we get the job done. And that kind of plays into the next seasons when they talk about it doesn't matter about corners. He cares more about the product that we're selling.
Yeah.
Whereas again, Avon is more about, no, we have to be the men in charge. We have to get this going.
Reputation matters.
Yeah, especially in the streets. You know, it's that we talked about in previous episodes about like the fear of these people that holds power and respect, right? So then the scout comes up there. He's like, all right, 500 to the foundation, and also like 5,000, yeah,
5,000.
to the foundation, another 5,000 just for, you know, scouting this guy. And the guy's like, it's all about money. It's funny how the scout's just like, you know, he's hustling just like them.
Yeah.
And he kind of knows that they have the money too. He
Right.
knows the Barksdale organization. So yeah. D'Angelo and Wallace talking. You know, Wallace is upset. He's still fucked up. And he's just like, I'm done with all this stuff. And D'Angelo can sympathize. I think, I don't know what you guys think, but I think D'Angelo would probably choose the same thing if he could.
Sure.
You know, it's just that he can't. You know, his uncle is the boss, so he can't quit. But I think he's
And
like,
too, you know, just the unanswered questions about exactly what Brianna does. Nobody knows, but you know, his mom is in it. What are you gonna, you know, what are you gonna do? Where are you gonna go? You know?
yeah, he has no other options. Whereas Wallace talks about going back into Edmondson High School.
Yeah.
You know, he says going back as a fort. We were debating his age. He mentions that he's 16 years
So
old.
he might be slightly older than Bodie, or they might be right around the same age. Like,
yeah, Bodie's just more mature than him, or more like thinks more like an adult, whereas Wallace still has that like youthful innocence. And D'Angelo even says that he's like, you're not like the rest of these people. You have a heart.
Yeah.
You have a brain. You can actually do stuff.
Dee's like, you know, Dee's Wallace's father figure, you know, or older brother figure, you know, and it's like, it's probably the first time Wallace has heard encouraging words, to be honest.
ever. Bro, Jesse, that's the exact note that I took down. He's the only person that speaks some life into Wallace. Like, that's what makes him so well liked by fans. It's what he did for Wallace, and you know, even being able to go against the whole family for Wallace in the end, like that's why people choose to revere D'Angelo, is because of how he treated Wallace, without question. In my eyes, maybe I'm wrong, but in my eyes, that's how I look at it. Like,
oh yeah.
I haven't run across many fans that actually like D'Angelo. Like, you have to like. I think he, but I mean, you know, as you get older too, I think, you know, I like, as long as with naming also, then when you start into it, then like Julito had said on the interview, people come around and they're like, yeah, you know, this guy's a kid, and start looking at it more realistically. You know, I think when I was younger and watching it, people were like, "Fucking D, man, he can't." He's not shit.
Facts, bro, facts. It's so crazy. Like, that interview did make me look at it a lot different. And I posed that in one of the Facebook groups. I was like, hey man, he was a kid. Somebody said, hey, don't mess how people view it. That's how people are gonna view it. You know, it is what it is.
Like
Don't make me, doesn't matter to me. But after talking to Julito,
I like what
it is weird. Like,
I liked how Michael Kevin Darnall was like, it's gonna, like, the internet guys like sitting behind home at a computer, like, this is what I would do in the game.
Yeah, it's like, you're not doing shit. You're eating Cheetos in front of a keyboard. You're not doing anything. Yeah, man. I always liked D'Angelo. And Naaman, I was surprised when I like join like the Wire community, whatever, to find out people. I always thought like he was like a sweet kid,
Yeah.
especially subsequent episodes.
It-
That takes
Oh,
a lot of balls and a lot of principles.
I think it takes, because fans love Stringer. No matter what he did, it don't even matter the dirty stuff that he did. People just love Stringer. Same with Avon. We just love them two characters. So it's like, nah, you were going against the Avon and Stringer. You were going against the crew, D'Angelo. You weren't supposed to do that.
Damn, dude. I guess I had the opposite thing. When he gets killed in season 3 was one of the most satisfying deaths on the show. I remember watching that, and I stood up and cheered. I was so happy after
that is such an unpopular opinion, and I guarantee you that right there is going to get cooked up. That little that you just said right there, yeah, that's a definite unpopular opinion.
When I didn't even think it was going to happen, but when Omar and Brother Muzone come out, and I was like, wait a second, is this really going to happen? And then he just like, fuck yeah! It was one of the greatest things I had seen. I was like, finally, fuck that guy. I was so happy when he got killed. But and D'Angelo, like you said, he's the only one who's like willing to talk to, the only one who understands him really. Understands what he's coming from. Poot, is like his friend. We established that he cares about him. In the previous episode, he's worried about him. But he doesn't really know how to listen to what he's saying because he can't really relate to him.
Speak life into
But
Wallace.
D'Angelo,
like, Wallace, you're better than him. He kind of did the best he could, though. Like, if that was a version of Poot speaking life into him, it was like, come on, man, you can't just sit in here. That's why I bet you gonna get out of Poot. I mean, shit. He was Amy Winehouse.
Yeah, he's not like a quality.
He's
not like, he doesn't know how to relate to what he's going through, but he's like, he cares as a friend. He's like, come on, man, like, get your shit together. Like, you gotta step it up a little bit.
Birthday to Trey who celebrated yesterday.
Oh yeah, I did see that. Happy birthday, Trey, for sure.
How old is he?
44.
40. Wow, he was 44. Damn, dude. So this came out in 2002. So that means
21.
He was 21. Wow. Wait, so am I doing that right?
21.
Yeah, because this was 3 years ago. Oh yeah, 21 years. Wow. All right, cool, man. That adds up. He looks about 21. Okay. So yeah, while D'Angelo's saying, he gives him the permission. He's like, you can leave. I'm not gonna force him to stay. And he tells like Poot and Bodie are concerned, and they ask him like, what's going on with Wallace. He says, just leave him be, and that's kind of where he starts to like have that protective instinct. He almost just, he says like, he's fine, just don't worry about it. And he gets a call from the pager, and this is the first of a few of them throughout the show of the fake calls from the police. I don't know if you ever know that happens throughout there, and Carver puts on a very stereotypical Chinese accent, pretending to be the Chinese food, Korean food worker. No, he says, I'm a Korean worker. Then Herc says, he sounded Chinese. Carver is like, you can fucking tell the difference.
Good yakami, good noodle.
But yeah,
you make order, you come get.
Pretty good accent, honestly. Not bad voice acting by Seth Gilliam, who played Carver. And he says, it's a cool scene because we find out that he has the number for D'Angelo's pager. So they're getting closer, And now this is an information heavy scene, the next one.
Yep.
So like bear with me, and you guys could also help out. It's pretty dense, right? Freeman comes into where Sidner and Presbeluski are, and he has a ton of pages for them. And he says basically what you guys need to do is oh wait, sorry. Before that, I'm jumbling scenes now. Bear with me one second. Okay, so McNulty gets a phone call basically saying that Weebay is about to pick up, Weebay and Savino are about to pick up a ton of money for a deal, and that's all caught on the phone. And so that sets them up to pick them up later. Okay. Now, before we get into forward in that, with the next scene involving that, Freeman comes into where Presbeluski and Sidner are with a ton of paperwork. Now, on this paperwork, as all of the listings for properties that are bought by Avon and Stringer's company, okay, it's called D&B Enterprises that they used to buy. It's a fake name. Now, Presbeluski is assigned to go through all of these and find any. It's like a giant, like textbook worth of papers, and he's going to every single name to try to find which properties were. And Sidner has to go through all of them and find every single private residence that's bought by these companies. And now they have to go to the charter office to find out where the other businesses that are bought by their company, and they find a look of microfilm, which is a tiny little piece of paper. Anyone who's watched the James Bond movies knows you can view them through a magnifying glass, and they find which lawyer represents them. And it's Levy and Weinstein, attorneys at law, 450 North Lombard Street, Baltimore. Okay, that's too much detail. They can also use that to find out the donations that are made by the D&B Enterprises to specific politicians. So they have a fuck ton of work to do. It's like, when you think about all of that takes hours upon hours of tedious bullshit to do. And it's like, that's kind of what we brought up in the previous episodes, how the brilliance of this is the first show to make being a cop look not fun. Having to look through the stacks and stacks of paperwork over and over again. It's tedious as hell, and when you work in law, my dad would tell me, as a lawyer, you tell me most of the job is just going through stuff like that, and it's very, very tedious. And when they go through the companies, through the records from the Capitol, then they could find the donations to specific politicians. That's where they find that the donations to Clay Davis, and as Stringer says, that's how they build the case. What's up, Jess?
You said it, Stringer says.
Oh, right. I'm sorry. Lester says that. He says, you follow the money, you don't know where the fuck it's going to take you. That's how they build the case, is through the money. All right. Meanwhile, McNulty has this, Herc and Carver have this Weebay's deal through the binoculars, right? And they arrest them. Well, no, they don't arrest him, but they pull him over. They pull him outside the car. They have a ton of money right there, like $22,000. And they say, it's kind of like what we talked about in the previous episode, right? Civil forfeiture. That's kind of it's the same thing that Daniels arrested Damian Price for, was the money. Although Weebay is actually smarter. He just says, if you don't have a charge, then you can't arrest me.
So y'all don't have no charge, right?
Yeah.
What money?
Yeah, and they money? He says the money's not ours. He doesn't have to tell them shit. He knows his rights. But they say, okay, fine. If you want this money, you can bring it back. You can talk about where it came from. You can go to I'm blanking on the name of the person, but go down to the station, right, and tell them, explain to the attorney, the state's attorney, where you got the money from.
Or state's attorney, yeah.
State's attorney, exactly.
Yeah.
Where he got it from. which is state's attorney, which is obviously Perlman. Okay, next scene with Bubbles is hilarious because it reminds me of something out of the Looney Tunes or like Tom and Jerry, where they Bubbles is on top of a roof top and he uses a fishing rod to get some heroin out of an empty car tire.
So they were.
It's a really comical scene.
It's comical, but it's like I thought on first watch, it's almost a little stressful because if Bubbles gets caught here, they're gonna fuck him up.
Oh yeah.
Let's put it in perspective. So Bubbles is on a roof, first of all, fishing down for this package. Okay, he's stealing a baking soda stash. Okay, two people got beat damn near to death over a baking soda stash, and Bubbles risks his life for a baking soda stash. All of this is like, it's fake. It's not even like cut with anything. It's just straight baking soda, apparently.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what Bubbles realizes later on in the episode. He's like, what the fuck am I doing? You know, that was like a big realization. He's like, I almost got beat to death over this bullshit. Yeah. And the guy wasn't paying attention. He's lucky the guy was like singing and listening to music and not paying attention. I was just saying it's comical.
That's comical. But I was just saying it's also like, especially like I think on first watch, it was a little stressful. You're a little stressed out for Bubs.
Yep.
You know,
they beat the shit out of the people who they thought took it. Like, I mean, they were beating the shit out of them with their bats. Like,
yeah, when somebody that they thought was Bubbles.
Yeah, Bubble would have been up out of there.
It's great as you see Bubbles in the foreground and he's like wincing as they can hear them. It almost like traumatizes and makes him think of what they did to Johnny in season 1, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like a common theme of like, look, we're just getting beaten up because of this drug, this high. And, you know, getting high is like the most important thing to them, right? It's their number one goal. It's what makes or breaks their day. So when he comes back with that and Johnny doesn't feel anything and neither Bubs does, this is the first time we actually see Bubs angry. Like really fucking pissed because he just realizes like everything I did was just for nothing. And it's like I just got, like Jesse said, I just got almost killed over or something. But it is kind of like an amazing scene though, because it does come off like a cartoon. But it's realistic at the same time. It's like I could totally see him doing that, you know. Because when you're desperate enough, you'll pull any kind of shit, and it's a pretty clever ruse, right? But you could see that he's starting to like. That's where the shift in Bubbles comes from, where he realizes maybe sobriety, not a bad idea, right?
Yeah. And Johnny tells him it's all in the game, Bubs. You know.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing too, and Bubbles is kind of.
Well, the shift started at the meeting.
Yes, yeah.
So after this happened, you know, he goes back to the meeting. Like he goes back to that hope and the meeting. You know what's funny about the meeting scenes too? There's a girl that gets introduced in season 3 that she goes like to buy she goes to buy the drug, and then in season 4 she's in the bodega, and then in season 5 she's in the recovery. Meeting. Yeah, I didn't know that. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay, it's an amazing how certain background characters have that recurring thing. It makes them more realistic, you know. It's like the people you don't really pay attention to, but they're still there.
Yeah.
So now Herc and Carver.
Just a question too, Jack. On when you were talking about the Weebay stuff, does them getting stopped, does that not make Stringer or Avon suspicious anywhere? Like because they got stopped, or was it so far from the wire that it wasn't suspicious to anybody? Like why wasn't that stop, I guess, revisited by anybody or anything? Like what I know McNulty said, you know, stop them far from the wire, you know, kind of thing. So they don't get suspicious, but I don't know. Shouldn't that have been slightly suspicious or
I think it's a combination of both. like you said, getting them far away from the wire so that they don't rattle Stringer Bell. But you'd assume that like Weebay is in close communication with Stringer, so he would tell tell him, hey,
And
like we just
Jesse, I
got
don't know if you heard us. I was just asking Jack, does them not popping Wee-Bey and Savino with the money, does that not stringer any suspicion from Stringer and Avon? Like, we kind of never revisit it. And I know Benochi said pull them over far from the tower so we don't, make them suspicious about the wire. But shouldn't them getting pulled over like make somebody suspicious? Or
Yeah, I would imagine that Wee-Bey had said something to Stringer too. So
yeah. I think, and they probably think of like, all right, it's $22,000. I mean, they at this point they know that they're under watch by the cops. They know that like they're fully aware of what they're doing. So it's just like at this point, that's why Stringer is trying to hunker down. That's a reason why I think one of the other reasons why I think Stringer doesn't want to go after Omar right now, because he knows that they're under watch by the police, and he figures like if we kill this guy, it'll just add more attention to them.
And for sure, by the end of the episode, and then going into the next episode, they definitely know because the cops kind of showed their hand. We'll talk about it later, but by the end of the episode, they definitely know. Like, oh shit, like they're really on to us, kind of thing. So
yeah, I think the thing is they think they're like really clever, and they but yeah, now they start to see that there's a shift, that all this attention's on them because it's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
One of my favorite quotes from this episode is when Freeman says like somebody's name has to be on a piece of paper somewhere. And so if you keep digging, you're going to find information about these people.
Yep.
And that's that's the life of crime, is like you can only get away with it for so long. Every show about crime, every movie about crime will tell you that there's nobody just evades the police forever. Eventually,
hold on, I'm gonna tell something too. This is it's a fun little fun fact. In season 2, they're in Butchie's shop, right? And they asked him about he was like the difference between the east side and the west side, and Butchie mentions a guy named Frank Matthews. Okay, I don't know if any of you ever heard of Frank Matthews. I'm gonna keep it short. Frank Matthews was a kingpin in the late 70s or late 60s and early 70s, who was supplying 25 states in the United States. And then he got news that they were charging him with a RICO. He was going to court, and then they were like, we're going to charge you with another charge that could give you life. He vanished. Still is missing to this day. They still don't know where he's at. They don't know nothing about him. Some people think he's in South Africa. They say he left with like $20 million, which today would be about $90 million in today's time. Never found him, never showed up, never contacted his family. He's still missing to this day. And when he mentioned that in season 2, that's a real person, Frank Matthews. They never found him. So he's one of the few that, and he supplied a few people in Baltimore too. So like he's a Baltimore legend too. Like, but his story is something that people don't know about, but it's phenomenal. Like,
thank you for bringing that
story. Yeah, it's an unbelievable story.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that tidbit. I had no idea about that guy, and that makes sense too. Because season 2. So actually, I'm going to go back and say not everyone. Some people do get away with, because the Greeks also get away with it in season 2. So it makes sense. The Greeks completely evade the police. They just, that's how you do it. You have to eventually just leave the country. Because the extradition laws are pretty loose with certain countries. So. So yeah, some people get away with it, but with the Barksdale crew, if they're doing the same thing over and over again, it's like, eventually they're going to get caught. And all of this information, people like to rag on McNulty or whatever, but it was because of him. Without him taking an interest in this case, they would still be killing people, and without any, without anyone stopping them. So it's really, he did bring this whole case onto them. And two of the, honestly, I feel like the stars of this episode, really for the first time, are Herc and Carver.
Yeah,
this is kind of like their episode,
for sure.
Because this is where we really see their mentality. Throughout this season, they feel like they're being undermined or not taken seriously, kind of like looked at as a joke, or and to their credit, they are right about that feeling. Most of the other cops don't really respect what they're doing. However, they actually come through later on in the episode, but because of their feelings of getting undermined and whatever, they feel like, you know, and why don't we take something for ourselves? And when they get all this money, Herc says, like, how much do you tip a waitress when they take your stuff? He's like 15%. And Herc says, well, maybe maybe we could have, like, how much do you think WeBay would tip? And they're basically saying, like, why don't we just steal uh money from this, you know? And then but Carver kind of puts a stop to that because he says, like, if we take money, people are going to count it and then they're going to find out um
He says you'd be
how
a
much.
clever motherfucker if there wasn't a wire up.
Yeah, exactly. And I want to get your opinion on what that quote. I'm glad you said that because I was reading that quote as we were saying that. So, what do you think that quote means? If
So
you're a
he's
clever
saying
motherfucker.
Carver's basically saying, yeah, we would take it, but there's a wire. They're gonna count the money. They're gonna hear the how much
Right.
money is in there. Yeah.
Carver and Herc don't get to hear everything that's on the wire. Like Prez does. Freeman probably does. He's manning the wiretap with Prez, you know, but other than that, everybody else isn't listening to the tapes. You know, only
Right.
pretty much Prez and Freeman are manning the wire, you know, so they don't know what's being said, you know. But
I mean,
if it comes later, hey, look, we lost 30,000, and then they see the submission slips, hey, y'all only turned in 20,000. Well, that's obviously between when they picked it up and when it made it back to evidence control, somebody took something. You know, that's the evidence of the wire running. How it would be harder to steal the money. You know?
which actually ends up happening. They
Right.
they lose money in the car seat there,
Yep.
and then but stealing money is not
Keep
above
talking
Carver.
first, gentlemen.
Stealing money is not a bunch above Herc and Carver because we see later on that they actually take
Yep. At the stash house.
at the stash house. Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, this is so, you know, and that scene at the stash house, like it's pretty convenient too. I mean, it's I like it because it just shows like above that, Herc and Carver aren't really dirty cops, but
Nope.
No,
Nope.
they consider it.
they've taken money before. No, I said later on in the season they do take money,
Right.
but we don't but you know, and that's the only blemish we ever see them as being like as far as dirty, you know.
It's
So
it's not a
it
common
just shows
thing.
you like just hey, people do shit, you know. Just
Yeah.
they took
It's
it
not
one
a
time.
common theme at all.
Right.
And 32 minutes in, we just want to say please like, share, subscribe, comment, Wiretapped Truths. We appreciate all the fans, all the subscribers, all the new people, all the new comments, all the new views. We appreciate it. But yeah, Jesse, it's not a common thing. You see it, and even in season 2, when they raid Nick Sabaka's house and they find the money, they don't keep any of his money. They turn in all of his money. You know, it wasn't as much as what it was at the stash house in season 1, but you rarely see cops taking money from drug dealers like in The Wire. Like
Yeah.
that's more of what we own this city kind of thing, you know. But we rarely
Well, I
see
think
it. It's implied some for sure though, like, but we never see it on camera.
you know, and I'm not justifying it. I'm not like defending stealing money. I will say that the temptation, like I feel like people would have that temptation, and in a way, it would almost makes like, you know what I mean? It's like, hey,
Yeah.
nobody's gonna fucking tell it. You know what I mean? It's, if you have all this money, it's like the devil on your shoulder, probably telling like, hey, just take like $5,000. Who the fuck are they gonna believe? You know what I mean? And so I get that like feeling of like, hey, you know, what if we don't do and in their minds, they might be thinking like, well, these other cops don't respect us already, so like, fuck them. Why don't we just take this money? Who gives a shit? But you're right. They put a stop to it. But almost Herc Carver doesn't say like, let's not do it. It's wrong. He says like, let's not do it because we might get caught
Yeah,
on
yeah,
fire. You
yeah.
know.
Like I said, you know, it's not above him taking money. He does take money later on.
Yeah, they do it more just for they don't want to get in trouble, and yeah, that's what I figure. I just wanted to make sure that's what they're saying basically because we don't want to get caught on the wire.
Yeah.
So yeah, McNulty, Greggs, and uh, uh, Freeman and Presbeluski are saying like we need to start following this money because all of the money goes everywhere. It goes to all of these properties, all of these private residents and businesses. Like we need, and then Daniels is hesitant because he knows that if we start asking for more for more money for this investigation, um, for more manpower, that the bosses are going to chew down his neck. And they find like, hey, we have a payphone that we got for D'Angelo. And then McNulty says like, why don't we just like get a wiretap on that phone too?
Right.
And Daniels kind of snaps at him and says like, dude, this is going to take like another 30 days. We don't have time to do all this shit right now.
Yeah, he's pissed. What's taking so damn long, McNulty?
Yeah, exactly. Like, and McNulty's confused. He's like, what the fuck did I do? He says like, one time this guy wants to like, does he want to do this case or not? And Freeman gets where he's coming from. He understands um look, this guy has a lot of pressure on him right now.
Mm-hmm.
He says like, Daniels wants to put a charge on Avon Barksdale, and McNulty says like, no, we can't do that right now. He says, give him some slack, Jimmy. He's wrestling with the angels on this one. He doesn't know what to do. He's caught between two different worlds. But
And I don't know if you mentioned it yet. Just another Herc just acting like a fool when he comes in and throws the money like right in Prez's workspace. Like
yeah, he knocks down his food. I love that
shit
too.
matter to Herc. Like it don't matter. Like it's nothing serious at all.
But did you notice that he's eating KFC in this scene? And in the next scene, too, Omar is also eating KFC. It's like a little tidbit. He's eating KFC and Mountain Dew.
Sponsor.
What's that?
Because
man, they had KFC.
When they're in jail, they're eating KFC too. Avon is eating KFC, and he's telling Weebay, man, you need to get in this shit, man. This shit good stuff. It's KFC.
Whenever you see a logo on the show like that, they're sponsored by it. I was watching like this one movie.
Oh yeah,
and it's like it was about a bank robbery. I forgot the name of the movie, but it was funny. It's like, let's go to Wendy's. Yeah, out of nowhere. All that bank
Wendy's all over the movie.
And you could tell like Wendy's probably like paid for the whole movie. It was like, hey, let's go to Wendy's.
Oh yeah.
They discuss all the bank robberies.
Well,
it was like
and look, the Wire's like subtle about it.
Yeah. The Wire's subtle, but it's funny when some shows and movies just like kind of like bring out the sponsor out of nowhere. Like,
oh yeah, dude, it always makes me think of like you ever like watch Wayne's World when like they're talking about like, I'm not some sellout who's just gonna like whore myself out for some sponsor, and then it shows him like drinking a Pepsi. He's like, I do love Pepsi. It's like every show or movie does it. And then because the last episode I noticed when D'Angelo and Chardine are arguing, like you just see a oatmeal cream pies box in the background. So and of course Domino Sugar, which I didn't realize has that big factory in Baltimore. You see a few times those establishing shots. Yeah, and that makes sense a big time because it's showing the city and the life of it, and so that's like a big landmark building there. So yeah, it's just interesting that they're both eating KFC, kind of showing like, hey, everyone's similar in a way, But yeah, Herc and Carver throw that money. They're so proud of themselves because they actually did something for once, and he has $20,000 or $30,000, and he says like it's all just vile money. So they basically figure like these guys are pulling in $1 million a month with everything that they're going. I mean, this is just from vials alone.
Yep.
So yeah,
and that's after and expenses and stuff. Like that's after 20%. All whatever equation Lester did, but that's after factoring in all of that. Like it's 60,000 a day, 25 million a year. Like it's serious.
Yeah, $1 million a month. Like they, you don't think of like drug or crime organizations as pulling in that kind of stuff, or most people wouldn't. But no, these guys, that's how they're able to afford all their lifestyle, and they talk about it later on, but we'll get to that when we get to that. I want to talk about Omar lives in basically like this makeshift apartment, And you know that like this dude, this is just some place that he found. You know what I mean? There's no like
This is a
landmark
vacant.
thing.
It's a vacant. It's vacants all
Yeah.
over the city. It's thousands of them all over Baltimore.
He kind of makes it into his own place. He's very like subtle about it. He's very cautious too, you know, because it's like he has to go downstairs into his place because he doesn't want to be seen by anyone.
And when he came in, he kind of was looking in like to make sure, like, hey, nobody's in here. Okay.
Yeah, he lives his life on the edge constantly,
Definitely
which
on
I
his
think
P's and Q's, for sure.
which makes him so effective, really, because he's constantly like sleeping with one eye open, and he has to because his job is that he robs drug dealers. Um, but now again with Herc and Carver, they're listening into Poot having phone sex. Like we talk, Poot is just the big womanizer of the organization. Um, he's like, you know, I want you to suck my lollipop and get on all fours. I'm gonna
Talking
fuck you in the
crazy.
ass. And Presbalowski's and McNulty are like, hey, you can't do this. If it's not after a minute, like you have to shut it down.
They're like, what is it? What is this
And
code words?
He said,
yeah,
oh,
what
yeah,
if
what
what
if
if
these holes was for stash houses, you know?
yeah, what if 3 holes were for 3? Yeah, it's they come in handy. They actually because they discussed Wallace
Mm-hmm.
basically getting Brandon killed.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah, but
accidentally like
but McNulty says you, or was it McNulty that
what's
says
it?
you
You
have to
got to justify
explain
it.
why you were listening to 5 minutes
Yeah, that was
of,
McNulty.
of sex talk. Yeah, no.
Yeah, that was McNulty. You know, he's like, dude, you can't. We're not gonna be able to use this. But they do. It is funny because this is the first time we actually see like Herc and Carver coming through with like valuable information because that is like a big thing of getting them on the wire of saying like, hey, we have this guy. Like basically admitting that Wallace caused this dude to get killed by the organization, and less about Wallace and more about the Barksdale organization killing Brandon.
Yeah.
Um, and it's also funny just because it's like Herc and Carver are such like children. They're just like giggling like fucking teenagers listening to this guy. You know, it really shows where they were at. And it makes they are like younger. I was looking it up. They're only like 25 years old. Um, so they're
Yeah.
like kind of like the kids of the organization, whereas like McNulty's, like Greg's, they're all in their early 30s. Um, it's funny when I first like watched this when I was much younger, I thought they were all older, but now
Yeah,
I'm like,
adults all seem so old to you, and then
yeah, and now I'm like, now we're right
yeah,
at their
who's
age,
that
you know,
now?
it's great. um, but now Omar is walking down the street with a shotgun, and his reputation precedes him, kind of like the
Legendary.
bar. It's interesting how I think Avon in a way is like jealous of Omar because he keeps talking about like he wants this like fearful reputation, and I think he wants to be have that intimidating presence the same way Omar does because Omar is just able to walk down the street and people just start running away from him.
Yeah, man, I don't know if jealous necessarily is the right word, but I get what you're trying to say. Like, I don't know if it's necessarily like a sense of jealousy because as we
Mm,
saw, like when Avon was in jail, he didn't have to say shit. And I walk
right.
across that baseball field, and you all know not to pitch or swing no ball until I get to where I'm going. So
Hmm.
he's definitely feared for sure. But
Right.
I think I get what you're saying, though. Like the moment you see Omar, it's like, oh shit, let me get my ass in the house. You know,
Yeah.
let me you know, kind of thing. I get what you're saying. I don't know if
Yeah.
it's jealous, but I get what you're trying to say for sure.
I don't think jealous might not be the right word, but I think he wants that same presence where he wants them to be feared in the same way. Um because Omar goes down and it's like people are running so far. Even like there's like little kids are like running as fast as they can. Like Omar's coming and then you see him going into one of the stash houses and he does like the line from the Three Little Pigs. He's like, "Don't make me huff and puff, you know. I'll blow this house down." I love the writing, man. It's just,
Especially
um
Omar's dialogue. Omar,
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Michael K. Williams was probably like, he got the role of a lifetime. It was like, yo, we're just going to give you every badass line.
Right.
And then put
He has some phenomenal lines, man. Like
And he's also smoking a cig while he does that.
yeah. There's a scene too when he's scoping out. I think is it the funeral home? I want to say season 2 or season 3, and it just shows it flashes to his feet and how many cigarettes he set and smoked while he's sitting watching.
Mhm.
It was like 15. Like he had been there for hours, watching this funeral home. Like, so it's his shots, some of his shots and his moments, they probably made him the most legendary character in the whole show. He's probably, it's probably old.
He loves those Newports.
Arguably all the television.
Yeah. It's it's probably him. It's probably him. He probably is.
He loves those Newports. Those are his cigarettes of choice. And even when the guy comes back,
let me give me 2 seconds. 45 minutes. I just want to say, please like, share, subscribe, comment. We appreciate all the love, all the support, all the fans, all the feedback. We appreciate you all. Wiretapped Truths. All right, Jack, keep us going.
But yeah, the guy Terrell in the house is like, "Hey, we have a Mac 10," and without even flinching, Omar's like, "Yeah, I don't think so." He's like, "I don't think so. Like, you need to give me this money." Because he's like, "Because I can come back tomorrow, and the day next to me, and then the day, and the next day, and the next day, and then." The guy just realizes, like, this isn't even worth it. I'm not going to lose my life.
Man. Here you go. Which is crazy.
So they just drop.
When you think about it. Like,
yeah. Yes, because there's obviously more of them in there. It's not just the one guy.
We're gonna drop out the whole stash, I guess. Like, man, his reputation. They made him so legendary. Like, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, they're not even gonna try. They know like we're not gonna win against this guy who's he's got nothing to lose really. Oh, they know Omar will just go insane with his guns, so they figure, fuck it, we're just gonna drop the vials. And he just goes around and he steals them,
And you know what? I shouldn't say they made him so legendary because he's based off of a true person, but I don't know to what degree the real Omar. I don't know, like,
I think he's based on a few different individuals, though. I don't think it's one person. And then
he's in the show too. The real Omar.
Yeah, the real Omar survived the jump and stuff, but it wasn't only him he was based on. He was also based on a couple other people too.
Other people, okay.
Other stick-up boys. But I mean, Omar for the most part is a myth. I think he's the most, like, he's a street myth, street legend. I think a lot of him is artistic leeway. Even you could be based on somebody, but I don't.
For dramatic purposes, it'll be.
I don't know if anybody walked around talking and the kind of significance
and whistling with a shotgun
and the beard, and it's a little disbelieving. But I mean, the real Omar survived from a higher jump off the
floor. From the jumping out the window for sure. Yeah, that's a true story.
Yeah.
And apparently, you let him.
Oh yeah, I mean,
higher too. It was a little higher than what was in the wire, which is, it sounds impossible, but who am I to judge? I wasn't there. He said it's true. We'll say it's true.
Yeah.
But also too,
there's definitely some creative liberties taken.
I'm sure guys like to embellish a little on their stories too. So are these stories are like noted, or are they written, or are they documented, or are they just word of mouth? Because word of mouth can get a little exaggerated too.
Just like American Gangster, the American Gangster movie, a lot of people say that, all right, a lot of that is super, super didn't happen, like super, because it was from Frank Lucas's mouth. It wasn't, and a lot of that stuff has been disproven, so.
Same with Goodfellas. A lot of the stuff was not real, or like Henry Hill was lying about his importance in the organization. Like Jesse said, when you take these guys, like to make themselves out to be more than they are, and then adds to the theatrical quality of it. Sometimes a little creative liberty is okay, if it makes for like entertaining or like adds to character development. But this is one where you see this is like an episode where you just see the overall power because he causes like when he walks into those into the terrace, you see like everybody is inside. It's just like nobody even goes outside to even talk to, you know what I mean? He just has that kind of power and he walks away with all these vials that he stole. Not like, and he's not even afraid of anyone trying to retaliate. Um, but to go off what happened in the previous episode when Kima and Freeman were trying to discuss, we're trying to pick out one of the strippers to speak to who was, who can help them gain information about the Barksdale crew. They decide on Chardine. Intuition, right, as we discussed. And so now we're following up with this. And they talk to Chardine on the street and tell him we need to go with us. And we've talked about this before, how some people like, you need a charge to bring with someone. But they bring that up later on in the episode about why she just wasn't decided to go with them without a charge with the police. At the same time, Poot's taking notice of Wallace and notices that Wallace is buying drugs. And again, Poot's a good friend. Like, he acts all tough and he's a big womanizer and this and that. But at his soul, I think he does care about him, and he is
For
concerned,
sure.
about his friend using. And we just see that, like, Wallace is so, like, damaged by this whole experience, I think if he were to explain to D'Angelo were to explain to Pooh, like, let's let him be, he would agree with that. Because the game's not for everyone, And that's kind of what also makes the Barksdale crew different is that they do let certain people leave. I think if Wallace hadn't come back to the projects, they wouldn't have cared, like the bosses wouldn't have cared, just like how they let Cuddy leave the organization. They do have like a code and they are willing to, like, they're not like, you need to stay with us forever and ever. They understand that things happen.
And you know what, too, Jack? Just you saying that's very interesting because you do get that sense of, hey, you're not going nowhere once you join the Marlowe organization, the Marlowe Stanford organization. That's a great little contrast there. I have to keep that in mind for, if we ever decide to do that debate of the two organizations. That's a good little contrast.
Oh yeah, so they let Wallace go, and with Cuddy in season 3, they understand, like, hey, it's not for you anymore. Like, who am I to tell you have to stay with us? It's not a contract for life necessarily. So yeah, that's why I always prefer the Barksdale crew over the Stanfield crew. I think most people do also, in terms of like who are better people. I think it's pretty undeniable that the Barksdale crew kind of surpasses them on an quote unquote ethical level, if you will. They definitely have more of like a code and they have more humanity. And there's actually a scene later on when Avon's like yelling at the referee that I'll touch on, what brings us back to that. But yeah, so the basketball game is a big theme, and it's everyone in the whole community goes to it. It's a big deal. Herc and Carver notice that no one's around, and they said, "Where is everyone?" Herc says, "Maybe we won." Like, he thinks that, like, oh, we picked up this $22,000, like, fuck it, I mean, he's also saying it like sarcastically.
I think he was joking.
Yeah, he was just joking around, like, hey, maybe we won. But in a way, it's like they do get all this attention on them, so they are kind of like gaining advantage in that way, the police against the crew. Although it's like a cat and mouse game. But yeah, everyone in the entire community is away towards this basketball game. And now you see Chardine and Lester Freeman talking, and Chardine is noticing all like the tiny furniture that he paints, and I love the detail. Very well painted stuff, I gotta say. Like, he even knows like it's specifically like made from marble and the type of wood, and like it's like a 19th century dressers that they made. Freeman's like really into this stuff.
You heard what Bull said. He said, Timmy, he makes more off that furniture than you make off this job, man.
Yeah, he's but he also, it shows like the sensitive side, and Chardine, I think, notices that. They were talking almost a little like you could see how they develop a relationship because like Chardine notices like the human underneath the cop, and Lester notices like this woman's, well, obviously very attractive, but there's like a human. He notices that she's like a very sympathetic and sensitive person too, because she talks about, oh, I used to have a dollhouse. They have like that connection. Um, so it sets up their relationship later on. But this is the first time we're also introduced to Bubbles' sister. This episode introduced us to a few characters. And it's really sad, with Bubbles and his sister, but it's like you can empathize with his sister too,
Sure.
She's very harsh and cold to him when she comes over to her house and says he wants to get clean. And in her mind, it's probably like, here we go again. It's your brother, so obviously you got to be there for him. But it's like, how many times can you trick someone or steal from you until eventually you've had enough, And it's a thing that's all too common with addicts, that lifestyle. Even if people want to get sober, it's their addiction that keeps bringing them back to that. And it causes stuff to do things that they wouldn't normally do, steal and cheat and lie. And it's not like a moral failing on anyone. It's your addiction. It's a disease that brings him out to doing this stuff. But Bubbles wants to get sober, and I think it's just doing baking soda instead of heroin, and seeing somebody else get like viciously beaten with a baseball bat because of him, that I think was just like he realized like this is too much, this is like a bridge too far, and that's kind of like sets up that he wants to get sober. um and also before that happens, he runs into Waylon, who he's he's at the projects with Bubbles and Johnny. Johnny are trying to pick up. They see Waylon over there talking to some young kid. And Johnny, like, he's still cynical. He thinks the sobriety's all bullshit, right? So he's like, oh, you see that? They're all lying. Like, Waylon's over here buying drugs. And Waylon sees, like, the desperation in these drug addicts, They're all lining up, like, fiending, literally, for this. They can't handle themselves. It's like, feeding time for these people, and like he's like so pissed off at these addicts, at these dealers for creating like this dependent relationship and like abusing these people. But he's also, in a way, you kind of like reflect on like this is how he was too, and it shows like this guy's really dedicated towards it.
His
Well,
words
say
touch Bubbles in that scene too. Like his words really make Bubbles think. Like, damn, he said 35, 40. I guess we don't know how old Bubbles is, but he made some think like, damn, I'm either coming up on that age or I'm past that age. Maybe you're right. They definitely make some think.
I always thought Bubbles might have been in like his mid-40s already.
Probably, maybe. Yeah.
Bubbles, dude, he's like 33 or something. Yeah,
he might be older than that. Maybe like.
Let me look it up right now.
I don't know his age. Well, I don't mean the actor. I mean,
you just mean the age of the character?
Yeah. I don't know if that discussed, but he may be older than 33 yet.
Okay, yeah, because I think the actor is like 33 or 35 years
no,
old.
the character might be. For some reason, I think Bubbles was meant to be a little older.
Okay. I think McNulty was too, honestly. Like the actor is younger, but like I think the character was supposed to be like a little bit older. Yeah. Because his kids are like 10 years old, so he figured.
Yeah, I always think McNulty's like 36, 37.
Yeah.
I mean, you can kind of do a timeline because he told D'Agostino, like when he went to college for, I think he said a year or 2 years, and then Elena got pregnant. So I mean, you can kind of try to do some math there. 21.
That makes sense.
20-ish, maybe. So now the kids are maybe he's 31, 32 now, something like that. I mean,
that makes sense too. And people, they have kids young. It used to be much more common. So you figured, he's in his early 30s, or he has kids that are like 10 years old. Makes sense. But Waylon's not there to buy drugs. He's there to help out his nephew.
And nephew looking rough too. He look out of it.
Yeah, it's really hard, and like what Jesse was explaining, He was basically saying like you need to hit rock bottom before you really want to change, you know, and usually that doesn't come until later on in life. Um, and with bubbles, it's a constant game, and this is a very common thing with addiction of like going back and forth. You want to get sober, then you relapse. You want to get, you know what I mean, until something happens that is just like, nope, I can't keep doing this anymore, and you realize this is going to kill me. Um, that happens much later on, you know, in the show. Um, like, you know, and it's a thing with all addicts. They realize that eventually. Um,
And 1
but
hour
yeah,
in, too, we just want to say please like, share, subscribe, comment, Wiretap Truths. We appreciate all the love, all the support, all the fans. All right, Jack, keep us going.
going back to the basketball game. You know, it's real. What I love about this is it kind of like in the episode 2 when they have that community event where Avon is cooking for all these people, everyone's bringing their family. This shows like the real community aspect of it. You
Yeah,
know, it's kind of that it's not just like a bunch of people buying drugs. It's like, no, these people know each other, they're friendly with each other, they can celebrate and do stuff like this, you know. They can get together and watch a basketball game, and it shows like it's West Side versus East Side. Like these people are rival gangs, but they're doing something as innocuous as playing a basketball game, you know. And it's like it's fun. It's kind of cute in a way, you know what I mean? And they're just doing this. They're not even doing this for anything real. They're doing it for bragging rights, and the
yep,
losing team has to throw a party for
yep.
them.
Just a
You know,
community, it's a community event, you know.
it's wholesome. You know, everyone brings their family out. People get really into it. It shows a different side of Avon and Stringer as they act as coaches,
Yeah,
you know, and it makes sense that Avon would be like the really loud, obnoxious coach. Like he fits that character to a T, you know,
yeah.
who's like screaming over a basketball game.
And this is
Um,
also our first introduction to a legendary character, you know.
yes, absolutely. Yeah. And we'll get to that when we see him. But this is like the first time that, yeah, this is when we see like a different side of them. And you know, it's nice. And I think Herc and Carver were so surprised by this too. They didn't
Yep.
think that they were going to be stumbling on a basketball game out of
Herc
all.
said, "What the fuck?"
Yeah. And I think in a way they're almost like amused, but kind of like taken aback, like, oh, okay, this is nice. Like I didn't really expect this, you know. They even have a conversation later on with Bodhi and Poot about this. They like it's a funny conversation because Bodhi is like, aren't you guys working? He's like, we're on break, and they're like, well, what about you? Like, we're also on break, and they it's like they're almost like just hanging out together, just
Yeah.
watching a
Oh, what
basketball
up?
game. You know, so you know, it's kind of nice, but it contrasts that with what Chardine is telling Freeman and Greg's about the crew, that you know she doesn't really know much about what's happening. Um, she just says like, I'm just a stripper. I just work for tips. Some of the other women, or exotic dancer, whatever the right term is. Some of the other women do tricks for money, but she's just like she just does her job and go home. And they
Yeah.
explain
I
like,
guess that's introducing Chardine as the good girl above the strippers. Like the other girls,
yeah,
I just
um, yeah, of course, you know, she's like that's why they picked her out. You know, they could sense that like this person isn't doing it. This is like just some woman who's, you know, was trying to make ends meet, right? And they explain like this isn't just a regular strip club. You work for basically like John Gotti over here, who's you know,
yeah.
they're killing people and they run the like all of the projects all over the west side of Baltimore, or east side. Is it east side or west side? Help me out here.
Avon's the West Side.
Avon is the west side. That's right. Okay, cool. Because yeah, Carver says like, "Oh, east side. That's my people." You know, he came from the east side with Bunny Colvin.
Yeah. East
Um,
Side is Prop
that's
Joe. Yeah.
that's right. Yeah, west side is Avon. So they mention, oh, Keisha Michaels, and she says, "Well, she's how's she doing?" And she says, "She's all right, I guess." And then they're like, wow, she really has no idea because D'Angelo has been lying to them about what happened to her. And to D'Angelo's credit, he didn't really he didn't do anything to Keisha Michaels, you know. He was
No.
there, but he didn't kill her
I
or
mean,
anything. He's just
it doesn't end well for him either way. I mean, if he tells Chardine like, yeah, she overdosed, and we put her in a carpet and we put her in the dumpster.
right.
You know, like,
He knows like there's some things you can't tell her, you know, so it makes sense on that level. But yeah, so they realize like, okay, like we can break her essentially if we explain like what really happened. He knows like Freeman says like, oh, she's a sweetheart, like we can use her to help us out if we show her Keisha Michael's corpse.
Lester got some bad intentions here.
Yeah, exactly. Lester's, he's immediately attracted to her. Makes sense. I get it, Lester.
You and Lester in the same boat, right?
Right, exactly. But he's also like, I guess he's late 40s too. She's like mid 20s. They actually have a nice relationship throughout the show. We were talking about Omar and Brandon having like a real relationship. They eventually do have like a nice thing.
Well, they don't really show her though.
And a few times they do.
I don't think so. I think after season 1, I think we don't see her again to the finale.
I remember those. Yeah.
We'll double check with Leland.
Maybe I'm misremembering things.
But I'm pretty sure. I just did a binge on the show, and I was like, I thought we saw more of Chardine and Lester.
I remember there's a scene where like they're just hanging out at their house or something. Or
I might have missed it.
She's bringing him food or something.
You might be right. Yeah.
I don't know. We'll find out as we go along. But I was saying to Leland before, it is a great thing seeing them in like different Avon and Stringer in like a different capacity where they're acting as coach. And it makes sense that like Avon would be like this aggressive coach. We also are introduced to Prop Joe, one of the best characters.
Look the part, be the part, motherfucker.
That was one of the, I laugh out loud so hard every time he says that. Because he's like, why the fuck are you dressing like, think you're like Pat Riley over here with your suit? And it's hilarious because he's like, you have a clipboard. What do you, and it is funny. He's like, why do you have it? What is he writing down on that clipboard? Like, what?
Ain't our first introduction to Prop Joe. He gets one over on Avon.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because he's the underdog. They just,
well, if you guys know about basketball, the clipboard is actually practice plays and stuff, and they're like, we're doing stuff, so.
No, it's just funny because he's busting his balls. It's like, dude, you're taking this way too seriously. Like,
I know he's like fucking melting out here in 3-piece suit.
Yeah, he's 85. You're wearing a suit. That is hilarious, though. That he like. I was just thinking about like getting up and just putting on this suit to like go to this game and play.
Avon roasting him is hysterical. Leland, Leland, do we see Chardine and Lester throughout the seasons, or because I said? After season 1, isn't she just in the series finale?
Season 2. Okay. I'm trying to think. Not season 3, not season 4. Yeah, just season 2 slightly because she introduces them to the stripper, and then season 5 when Lester's laid out. Oh, when Noti's laid out, he comes back with Chardine,
and that's it, right? Okay. Yeah. So
that makes sense. But she has like a happy ending in a way. She finds like a real stable relationship. It was cold Lester stealing her from D'Angelo. But that is a funny scene because he's just like Prop Joe gets some guy who was like playing in Europe at the time to like really come over and they take it seriously, But so Herc and Carver notice like, hey, this is like a real thing. This is like a different aspect of this organization that we're seeing. Back to the dungeon where Daniels is. He's saying we need to follow up on these cases. They find out from Herc and Carver. Again, Herc and Carver, they really come through in this episode because they overhear Poot mention Avon's name, implying that he's right there in the game. Mm-hmm. This is like the most useful they've been throughout the entire season.
Now, granted, when Daniels radios in and Herc is like, I don't even know what I'm looking for. Y'all been on him for 3 months. You don't know what he look like?
They only have that photo of him for the boxing match, and that was like 10 years ago. I mean,
Sidner was able to put it together, off that same photo. So it's like,
Cinder does that, Well,
but
Cinder's much smarter.
He's so underrated. Yeah. He's such an underrated character. Like he's clutch in every season almost.
Yeah.
Like he's a very underrated character for sure.
He is. He's like the underrated. He's like the cool cop. You know what I mean? He does his job well. He doesn't argue or like have an ego. He's just smart and he knows how to get the job done. And it's like he's like a unicorn in that sense. So he's like the perfect cop you'd want on your case. If you were a lieutenant, he'd be like the first guy that I would choose.
And he's willing to be a little dirty too. Like, it's kind of like, I bend the rules a little bit. I can, but I'm also smart enough to put the pieces together, So.
Yeah. He knows that he knows what to do to get the job done, even if it is like bending the rules a little bit, Not every now and again you have to like do something a little off kilter in order to get the job done effectively. But they realize, hey, Avon's on this. Daniels is like, let's go down there and get it done. This is the part where McNulty kind of pisses me off in this episode. And, obviously I'm the biggest McNulty defender. But he did like when he's like, what's the point? You know what I mean? Why we're not going to get him with any drugs. And I was like, shut the fuck up, dude. Just like, you don't need your opinion every second of the day, dude. Just like if I was working with him, I would literally probably say that, like, dude, fuck off. You know what I mean? Just
get your ass in the car so we can go do what we need to do. Like, yeah. But I get what McNulty's saying too, though. Like, he's right though. Like, he's not about to go near any drugs. We're not about to do anything to further the case. Like, I get it. But
he followed
Stringer,
But he followed Stringer to a community college class for no reason.
Right. There you go. Damn. So
what's his ego that I think is,
and you know what? I got a question.
Basically, if McNulty says it, it's okay. If somebody else says it,
then it's the problem.
Yes, exactly.
I got a question I'm gonna pose a little later about who's the bigger hypocrite between two of our main characters. I'll pose that question when we get there in a little bit. Like,
Jack, I'm gonna turn you into a McNulty hater, bro.
Not happening.
I saw the light. Now I must make you see the light also.
People piss you off sometimes. You know what I mean? I was sympathizing with Daniels here because it's like, this is like, there's no reason for him to argue. It's like, there's nothing, like, yeah, you're not gaining anything, but it's just like, look, the boss says to go down there. Sometimes just throw him a bone. Just be like, all right, sure. It doesn't harm you in any way to just be like, all right, fine, whatever.
For sure. And you're telling me a part of you doesn't want Avon to see Avon in person and kind of get this close up of him. Well,
that's what Presbo says to him. He's like, really? He's like, I don't, and he says, like, if we don't get him on voice alone, we don't have him, which isn't necessarily true either, because if you have photographs of the guy, that helps your case. In fact, only having the guy's voice, I would say, wouldn't necessarily be enough for a conviction. I would say you would also need like photographs and eyewitnesses and everything like that. But
I think he's saying the voice is connecting the conspiracy. Like, I think,
of course,
like he's talking about the whole case in totality. I would
assume. You're right though that it's like there is no point. It's not like he's doing anything illegal. He's literally just coaching a basketball game. So like, it's like for him, it's like this is a waste of time. But he has them, and then this is something I want to double check because him and Presbeluski are listening on the wiretap, and one guy is saying to another, like, why are you hollering me? He's like, we're getting low. You need to come. Like, when are you going to pick us up? When are you going to pick up the drugs, right? Mm-hmm. And he's saying, I'll get to it when I get to it. Who is he listening to on the wiretap there? Is it just unnamed?
It's the stash, and I don't know who's on the other end of I don't know who the voices are.
Okay. I figured it was just like people we haven't been introduced to.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because that's when McNulty writes in the notebook, okay, yeah, we're on the stash. But he had to put down that information, but nobody was watching. So like nobody has seen the call made, then you can't note it. That's why he wrote in a notebook, even though nobody was watching. Because it's such a big piece, we don't know when we're gonna get the stash person on the phone again. I'm just gonna read the shit in the notebook and say Sidney was on the roof, So that's that scene was.
And it's just like we said, like sometimes you have to like bend the rules just a little bit because like this is a big evidence. They have basically drug dealings going down over the wiretap.
He had to do that. He had to do that,
Yeah.
For sure.
And Presbo is such like, it's funny how he started off so crooked and now he's like such a Boy Scout.
He's so
Like
clean. I'm so
he's
clean.
like, what are you talking about? Sinner wasn't on there. And McNally's like, yeah, he was actually. he's like, dude, just go along with it.
Granted, you know,
I
in
know,
the
right?
last year or 2 years, I have shot up my police car. I done shot in the office. Blinded a 15-year-old kid. You know, trying to think what else.
Yeah,
I feel
but
like that's enough. But you know,
for writing somebody that wasn't there, no, that's
Yeah,
a bit.
whoa, that's a way too. Yeah,
that's
don't.
my code. I can't do that.
I think I think what the Wire does too, it kind of like it makes it tries to stress the fact that this is their calling kind of thing,
Mhm.
like oh, Prez has found himself as
Yeah.
an
In
office
office.
person, so now he's going to be a goody two shoot, and I don't know if that's 100% realistic because we just talked about all the fuck ups he did, and him putting Sidna on the roof, I don't think morally will sit that bad for him. If, he's pistol whipping a 15-year-old. Like, yeah,
Or
yeah,
just, yeah.
Honestly, granted, maybe it didn't even bother him that much where we needed to even revisit it. It's not a huge deal. This is McNulty slightly bending the rules so we don't have to wait another month or 15 days until we get the stash house person back on the phone. It's not a huge deal. It's a deal, but it ain't nothing crazy.
Yeah, I don't.
But I would say counter.
Go ahead.
I was just say to counter that argument just for a sec, though. I would say maybe Presbo seeing the kid with the. Do you think maybe Presbo seeing the
That
14-year-old
could be
kid
it.
with the eye patch
I like that
changed
argument.
him? Like
I like
it, like that kind of sets, because when he sees him and he walks into Daniel's office with his tail between his legs, you could see there's like an element of shame and guilt and
For sure.
and remorse and regret, because even when Daniels walks out of there, Presbo can't even look at him. He just looks at the ground. And I from when I got the sense, it almost seemed like he was regretful. Like he's like, Jesus Christ, what is wrong with me? I can't believe I did that. Like I think that honestly sets in motion
For
his arc as a
for
character.
all of Presbeluski's fuck ups, like he has one every season except season 4 and 5. But the first 3 seasons, is hitting the kid, blinding the kid, obviously. And the second season is him hitting his stepfather, a major or whoever Valchek, whatever his rank. I think he is.
That wasn't a fuck up in my opinion. That was awesome.
It was probably warranted, and then the third season he accidentally kills the black cop who didn't, he didn't know he was a cop. But in terms of him knocking down that 15-year-old, like I'm trying to see after that if he shows any remorsefulness before the kid is brought back into the precinct. Like I'm trying to remember any other Prez Beluski moments where he's trying to change and help the detail in terms of the stuff he's studying and figuring out. But just about remorsefulness, I'm trying to think. Other than that part, has there been any time before him seeing him? I don't think there was a scene for him to even show remorsefulness other than him seeing him.
But I think that's like I think that is a huge thing where it's just like he sees the results of his actions and the consequences of him being selfish. And I think that thing, I would argue, that like sets in motion his entire arc as a character. Because I think like most of the characters, Presbo is also based on a real person that David Simon knew that was like a fuck up cop who became a teacher.
Interesting.
And who's like, who has that thing of like, I've been hurting people, now I want to help kids. I don't think it's like I don't think it's unrealistic. I actually think like that's a real thing that people like take different paths, and it makes sense. He's like, for all of my like selfish actions, he's like, I want to like give back and like do something that I can really find a calling in, and being a teacher, you see like a completely different side of him where he's like he not only becomes like a great teacher who actually like is dedicated and caring to the field, but is even like willing to protect his students against the cops.
You know what, too, Jack? Talking about remorsefulness, do you all remember when the girl slashed the girl's face in season 4?
Yeah.
And Presbeluski is writing in his notepad about it, and he's talking to his wife.
Mhm.
He is extremely remorseful in that scene where it's like he can't even really watch football. He don't want to go nowhere.
Yeah.
He don't want to go on a walk with his wife. Like he can't think about anything else other than the kids and their after effect of seeing something so vicious, kind of thing. Like he's extremely vulnerable in that scene there. Like just wanted to point that out because you asked about
That scene makes me cringe just thinking about it.
Yeah. That's a tough.
Oh yeah, that scene makes me cringe. Even just like thinking about it, I was like, oh god, yeah, no, it's true. He sees that and he thinks it's just like I think what you're getting at is like it's like a pattern of violence. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? That it's like even in a classroom where it's supposed to be like this real wholesome place of learning, it's like we can't escape that. And he wants to create like a sanctuary where kids are free from their lives that are filled with poverty and violence and drugs and everything. He wants to create a classroom where kids can be safe from that, and that's like that you end up loving Presbeluski by the end of the show, even
For sure.
after what
Oh
he
no, for
did,
sure. For sure.
But yeah, so McNulty realizes like, hey, we have the drug deal on the wire, and like this is actually a very McNulty doesn't have a lot to do this episode. We kind of take a break from him. This isn't a very McNulty heavy episode. Honestly, like I said, I think Herc and Carver are kind of like the main, and Freeman and Greggs are kind of the main cops in this one. Now this scene I really want to talk about because when Avon is yelling at the referee is one of the most interesting Avon scenes for me. Um, like because in his mind, Avon's mind. Okay, so let me provide context. Right, Avon thinks like one of the opposing teams fouled his player. The East Side
Right.
fouled his players. Avon's like, "How did you not call that?" In Avon's mind, he's just like, "We're just playing a basketball game. It's par for the course for the coach to yell at the referee, right? You see it all the time in every sport, especially basketball, right?" But like, he doesn't understand that everyone is afraid of him, or like this referee is just some random kid who's
He's
taking a
petrified.
is what
He's petrified of
he's
him.
petrified. Oh, he's terrified. He doesn't understand like this kid is afraid of being killed. It's not like he's afraid that like if he calls it against the Barksdale crew, they're gonna like murder him. And he says like, I can redo it again if you want. He's like, how are you gonna redo it? He's like, don't be a fucking pussy. He says that he's like, you need to stand up when somebody's yelling in your face like that. And
Like, what the fuck was he supposed to do? Like,
right, yeah.
You're telling him not to be a pussy or not. Wait, did you want to punch you in your face or what?
He's gonna
Like,
throw him out of the game, like
Well, there's
and
an
even
important. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
There's an important line here too. He said, "Are you talking about a redo? That's not how the game is played, right?"
that's
And
not a game.
Yes, yeah.
Avon's about playing the game. Avon and Omar both see the game. The game is supposed to be played a certain way, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and they're talking about, and in this sense, he's talking about basketball. That's not how he don't like when rules are broken, right? I can picture playing Monopoly with Avon, and he'll be like, you can't buy a hotel without the $3, right? Like Avon doesn't like when game rules are broken, right? So he's like, that's not how it's done. Like when Sunday Truce was, we don't shoot on Sundays. What the hell? Like,
Right. They have a code, which is it separates them from the Barksdale crew. I mean, from the Stanfield crew. And another thing that separates them is that Avon wants people to respect themselves. He wants people. He was yelling at the referee because in his mind he's like, "Don't just bow down to me because of who I like." He's like, "Stand up and be a man." And he wants to like bring that out of people too, whereas like Stanfield is all about that power. Like I said earlier, like Avon wants to be feared, but he wants to be feared on like a legitimate level. Like he wants also people to like he wants there to be like a reality where people aren't just talking to him that way because of who he is. He wants to like have people be honest with him. And whereas Marlowe, you get the sense that he would just like shoot the referee right there and then. You know what I mean? He wouldn't he just wants the fear. He doesn't want any sort of like talking back whatsoever. And Avon's almost like annoyed that this referee didn't yell at him. You know what I mean? And he's like, he wants to treat it like it's a real basketball game.
Yeah.
He looks at the referee as like a real referee and not just like a person to stomp on and bully and yell at. So in his mind, he's not doing
necessarily a bully. Avon is not a bully, really. Like, we don't really get to see him bully people. He kind of cornered the ref, but I think, like you're saying,
he's kind of bullying the referee a
that
little
was
bit.
just in a sense of the basketball game, I guess.
Yeah.
Kind of like I don't really, when I think Avon, I don't think he's a bully. When I think
No, I don't think so either. I think
or
he was
Chris,
like, I don't
I
think
think
he
bully.
sees himself as that.
Yeah.
He's not a bully. Like he's like but he is like berating this guy.
Sure. No,
And he doesn't,
he's
and he
all in
doesn't
his,
see himself as a bully.
yeah, he's all in his face and shit. Like, but granted, the ref should have
Right.
called it. He did foul him. I'm just saying.
Right.
From
Yeah.
a sports perspective, he did foul him. He should have called.
Leland's like, that was bullshit.
It was. I had money on that game.
Yeah, exactly. He was betting on the Barksdale crew there. No, yeah, Avon was yelling at him. He doesn't see himself as a bully. He's not trying to like humiliate this guy. He wants him to like stand up for himself. And like just because he's Avon Barksdale, he's like, no, fucking, if you think I'm out of line, tell me I'm out of line. And the guy says, like, I don't want any trouble, but Prop Joe's like, this is just a basketball game. There's no trouble here. And you see D'Angelo's face. I think that was a really interesting thing.
Yeah.
D'Angelo is just like kind of like
quick second.
He's like angry and embarrassed and just kind of like resentful of his dad, just like acting like a raging asshole towards this random guy. But again, in Avon's mind, he's not trying to be like that way. He's trying to just bring like he's trying to like talk to him like with respect almost in his way, because that's how he sees basketball coaches and referees. They argue. So it's just like a real interesting Avon scene, and it's like
probably don't let the ref know too. He's like, nobody's getting hurt over no bad basketball game.
Right. But it was just interesting because they almost like stopped the game for a second, because in the mind of the viewer, like I think like we were all, when we first saw this, we were all like afraid for the referee. At least I was like, oh shit, like is this guy gonna get hurt right now? And you see this referee is like terrified, but they bring it back to like, no, not everything is about violence. This is, at the end of the day, this is just a basketball game. But yeah, so we also see we'll go back to the coroner's office where we see Keisha Michaels' corpse, and she's Chardine is devastated, and they bring up the fact that like they rolled her up in a rug and threw her in a dumpster. Like that's fucked up, man.
Crazy work. That's crazy work.
It's so dehumanizing. And they bring it out, and honestly, it's interesting how the coroner is playing the role too. He was basically just describing it in a very matter of fact, nonchalant way.
Yeah. With three people, pretty much everywhere you could think of, they found DNA in her, So
yeah. And then they describe like even after she was killed, they didn't take any sort of like remorse or responsibility. Like, no, she did all the coke that was on her. So that's when they get like a big shift where you see Chardine's like, I don't want anything to do with these people. She was like a friend of mine, and she says like, I have to quit the club, but Lester says, not yet. You got to help us out here. Which sets in motion how she's going to like assist the police here. So after Avon, and I actually liked Avon in this episode. Like, I talked about how I hate Stringer, but Avon is more likable as a character, and not just because of the thing where he's like trying to bring out the best in people, more of a sense of like he does have, like you said, he has a code like Omar that he wants to live by, right? And so he leaves in his car. They're all trying to follow him. Sidner, Herc and Carver, Daniels, they're all trying to follow him. And even driving this giant fucking like a giant Chevy.
It was Excursion, I think.
What is it?
Chevy Excursion, I think.
Chevy Excursion. Okay, yeah. I was gonna say it reminded me of like a GMC Escalade, but I saw it was a Chevy. So yeah, Chevy Excursion. Giant SUV, right? He's blasting music. not being subtle at all or sneaky, but he's so clever and smart. He's able to evade these people because he
Yep.
knows the area better than they do. He knows the alleyways. He knows how to escape, and they end up, even with 3 different police cars, they still end up losing him.
Yep.
He comes through an alleyway, and they think, "Oh shit, he must be gone." And then at the last second, we see him in slow motion driving by Daniels, and the first time Daniel sees his face, and he wags his finger in his face. One of the most famous like gifs from the show,
For
and
sure.
it's just it's a great scene too because it shows he's like fucking with them,
Yep.
and it's great too because again he has a code, he understands what they're doing, but he says like, "Nope, not today. You're not gonna follow me today," you know. Um, and it contrasts with what Herc is saying. He's like, maybe we won. He's like, you're not even close to winning. He's like, these
Nowhere
guys still
near.
have you beat. No, the Barksdale people have you beat. They know the city better than you do. They know they're still like a few steps ahead of you on this. So, but it was a great reaction too because the scene is shot in slow motion. That one shot where you see Avon wagging his finger, and you see like Daniel's face, and like he was so surprised, his eyes widened because he didn't expect to see uh, Avon there. But at the last second, and you think like, oh, these guys would try to hide from the cops, right? But Avon's not afraid of that. He's like, you can see my face. You know what I look like. I don't give a shit at the end of the day. Um, so yeah,
And
that was.
an hour and a half in, we just want to say, please like, share, subscribe, comment, Wiretapped Truths. We appreciate all the love, all the support, all the fans, all the comments. Jack, go ahead and finish us out.
You got it, man. This last scene we see of Bubbles. He's in his sister's basement. He's going
struggling
through
too.
withdrawals, man. He's tweaking.
He's struggling. He's picking out his mustache hairs. He is struggling.
As me and Leland, both with beards, would tell you, that looks fucking painful.
What I was
So
watching it, I was rewatching this morning. I was like, "What do I hurt?"
That looks so painful. Just pulling out individual.
If any of our viewers need to detox too, try not to do it on your own. It's dangerous. If
Of course.
if you like severe alcoholic too, like you could die of trying to detox on your own. Go to a hospital or clinic. It's like 3 or 5 days. I think opiates is like also and stuff. But detoxing on your own is fucking painful as fuck and is dangerous. So just a little disclaimer out there.
Yeah, if any fans are going through, withdrawals and trying to detox, like Jesse said, please go to your nearest. You said your nearest hospital, Jesse?
Yeah, hospital. Yeah, a hospital. You don't have to go to a rehab to detox.
Okay.
Most hospitals,
of course,
like 3 to 4 days, depending on your intake and stuff.
No, thank you for bringing that up, and it's a great point. And absolutely, with the show, one great thing about it is it brings up that there is no shame. It's like I said earlier, there's no moral failing in being a drug addict. This is the first show to really address that these people are human and that there's nothing wrong with that. It's not on. It's just. It humanizes these characters, and it shows Bubbles is really, really struggling to the point where he's like self-harming because of the pain of the withdrawals, right? But it shows also that he's trying. He's making an effort at this point in the show. Right?
You see a lot of different emotions in that scene because you see him smoke the cigarette, and then he's like, he kind of relaxes for a little bit, almost like, okay, maybe I can do this. You see a lot of different emotions in that little 90-second clip of him. Like it's very, very telling.
Yeah. No, yeah, absolutely. He doesn't know what to do. He's like, his normal thing was like, well, I gotta get high, but he's like, I can't do it. So what the fuck am I gonna do all day? Yeah, and so that it's a constant back and forth with Bubbles, but he definitely shifted in this episode, and he's more dedicated to being sober right now.
Yeah.
Now this next scene is where McNulty and Daniels explains where all the how much money they're pulling in. Like we addressed earlier, they're pulling in $1 million a month. Great camera work too, because as it's being explained to Daniel is about how their political contributions that they're making to people like Clay Davis and all the properties, the camera zooms in on Daniel's visual storytelling, right? That's what it's called, about just showing like his mind is being cracked open. Like it's almost like, what did I get myself into? You know,
And
for his
you know what too, Jack? Just you talking about the back and forth, it's a double-edged like sword too. So him telling him like, okay, it's 22,000. It's also to reiterate what he heard on the wire about when he questions Herc and Carver too. Because the way that Lester said 22,000, it was like to emphasize, hey, it was really 22,000. And then Daniel says 22,000.
Yes.
So it's like a double whammy. It's like, damn, that's a lot of money, but also thought I heard on the wire that it was, I thought we got a little bit less than that from what we turned in, like kind of thing. So
it clicks in his head there that Herc and Carver are bullshitting him.
Yep.
And Dan, it shows how smart he is, but it's also what I took out of this whole scene is that like Daniel is just like, he realizes like this is more than I signed up for. Like he just wanted a quick get in and get out, and now he's like, this is like. This takes over like the entire city in terms of millions
the political
of dollars.
contributions is what takes it to the next level. Like you mentioned, well, shit, you got Damian Price coming out, picking up 20,000 whenever he feels like it. Just last month on record from their companies, it's 75,000. We don't know what the real number is, but all going to political stuff. Oh no, this is deeper. This is way deeper than we thought, for sure. This is a big deal now. And as many times as I watched the show, never really clicked how important that scene was in terms of the case. Like, oh, shit. 100,000 almost a month in political contributions? Oh, shit. What are we dealing with here? Like, it never clicked in my head, like, just how important Lester telling Daniels and what that was to the totality of the case. Like, great scene.
Oh yeah, and all that money to Damian. Oh yeah, and all that money to Damian Price was just for a state senator.
Yeah.
Like it's like we haven't gotten how much money he's probably giving to like the mayors or the congressmen or the city council. Like it goes real. It's a conspiracy and it goes really really fucking deep.
And you know what? McNulty breaks down too a lot of the assets, like to kind of put it in perspective. So like the club, an apartment building, a funeral home, and a bunch of real estate. Like, so these are all cash businesses to clean all this money. And if they did that math like McNulty and Freeman put together, that means Stringer is cleaning almost at least $10 million a year. That's what he's dealing with, having to clean, like this is a large organization. Like in terms of the money that they're bringing in, it is no joke. Like
they basically like fund most of the city, and it's like it's very realistic too, because it's like a lot of cities that don't get funding from the government, like they explained. The money has to, for that funds basic resources, it has to come from somewhere, and money gets filtered out through all these different things. It's impossible to like trace it. So yeah, Daniel has realized like this is a huge case. They said multiple times like this is a career case,
I'm starting to register like, oh shit, this is next level. Like,
oh yeah. And yeah, so this is where like Daniel realizes that, and also in the next part, just because it's related to that scene, he brings in Herc and Carver, and it's a great scene for Daniels. It really makes me respect him because he's like, listen, you bring this back tomorrow. Like he's not fucking around.
He's pissed.
Yeah,
he's not happy about this shit at all. And this is what I was talking about earlier, y'all. Very hypocritical of him too.
Right.
I mean, is Daniels or McNulty the biggest hypocrite? Which one is a bigger hypocrite?
Right.
Because
they're both hypocrites.
Daniels, like, you mad? I get it. It doesn't happen in your unit, but you ain't clean yourself. Like,
right.
Nobody knows it except McNulty. But yeah, I get it. I get you don't want it to happen on your watch and it'll look bad on you. But yeah, you almost just as dirty. You're intentionally dirty. They didn't even do it on purpose.
Right.
So that's just a little nugget.
No, yeah,
mention to y'all. Like,
definitely. Also, it's like that's almost. I think one of the reasons he didn't just immediately like kick them off the case because he knows that it's like not only is it part of it, not only does it happen that he's aware of, but he's guilty
been a
of the
part
same
of it.
thing.
That's interesting.
And
Damn.
much more money than they're stealing because like he said like it was like 15, so that's like $7,000 that they said, which is a lot, but like it's like fucking peanuts compared to what Daniels is accused of stealing.
We don't know the number. I'm gonna bring it up every
Yeah.
time that we talk about it. Couple 100,000 in
Right.
assets is what he has that we don't know where it came from. So.
Oh yeah, but Herc and Carver are great in this scene too because it's like a kid being called in front of the principal. Like they have their heads down. They know like, oh, we're fucked.
They lie.
And
They look
Carver,
at each other like,
yeah,
did you take it?
Carver blames Herc too,
Yep.
which is interesting.
And Herc says, "I wouldn't take it without telling you."
Right.
Yeah, you can see there's almost like a rift there. Like there's like, well, you don't trust me. You know what I mean?
And if they wouldn't have found the money,
and
that
they're
might have
right.
been an interesting, dynamic if they never found the money, kind of thing. Like, and what effects that could have had, if they never ended up finding that money between Herc and Carver, just with the detail. That might have been an interesting plot, turn in the road, kind of, if they had went that way. That's interesting, but.
Yeah, no, of course. And it actually makes more sense with their characters too, because it's like they're not corrupt, scummy, like stealing. They're just fuck ups. So it makes more sense that they would lose the money in the wheel well of their car. And that to me makes more. And because the next thing they show them going through their trunk and throwing, and you can tell they don't clean out their car at all because they all kinds of garbage. Yeah. All like food wrappers and empty cans and all kinds of shit. It looked like my car, really. I'm not gonna lie. So it says, but they finally found the money and they're relieved. Like, all right, they lived for another day on their case. Chardine leaves D'Angelo here. D'Angelo is like pissed off because he loses Chardine, and it's like, holy shit, this woman. I get it. And she doesn't even explain why, because at this point she blames D'Angelo for her death, Keisha Michaels' death. He thinks
he
that
did
she was
lie.
involved.
He
He did lie,
But
like I was explaining to Jesse, it's like he didn't really like do anything to cause her to die. He just was like,
he had to. I mean, he had to lie. He was in a lose-lose situation. He's not.
What was he gonna do?
He was gonna say, "Well, I can't.
Right.
I went a beer run. I came back and she was dead already. But I helped
dead.
put her in the carpet and put her.
I ain't do nothing but help roll her up. She was already dead.
Mm.
I ain't really do much. Damn. What was he gonna say? Come on now.
So I sympathize with like D'Angelo. He's put in an impossible position. He's not going to rat out his uncle to the woman that he just started dating, that he's dating, because then he might get killed. So he just says like, I don't know what happened, but at this point she's blaming D'Angelo. She thinks he's a complete fucking scumbag that killed her friend, and she leaves, and he's just confused. He doesn't, because she actually doesn't explain why.
She says about the rug.
Well, she says, why don't you just roll me up in a carpet or something?
Right. And then that clicks in his head.
And let me ask y'all this too. Would that, I always gotta ask about the triggers, like to make them think. Would that not have triggered anything? Like, because how did Chardine get to the coroner office? She's not the girl's next of kin. Like, I don't know.
I don't think Dee's as bright as his uncle and
Wait, what are you asking? How would he bring her to the coroner's?
No, the only way that she would have known that about her being rolled up would be from the coroner office, from the cops, something like that. So shouldn't that have maybe D'Angelo saying like, well, wait, how the fuck you know that?
Right. Well, he's not the brightest bulb, as we've figured out. He's like, that's kind of one of the reasons it makes sense that he gets killed early on, because he makes mistakes after mistakes, and he lacks like common sense or deduction skills.
You know what? His whole story was him not accepting who he was. Even up to his death. If he just did the 20 and wasn't really biting back or barking back, and just said, you know what, I'm good. I'm just gonna do my time. I'm fine, y'all. Y'all don't gotta worry about me. Like, he could have reiterated to the family, like, look, I'm not gonna snitch. I'm not even.
Yeah.
I'm good where I'm at. But he didn't. He never went through that. So I feel like, and even in his last scene, he's talking about in the book. They're reading the book, and it's like, the story that they're talking about. He didn't want to accept what was going on. He's really speaking about himself. He didn't want to accept the drug game for what it was and accept for who he was. And if he had, he might not have been killed. So.
Right. And one also thing about Chardine that she, because we talk about, like, why would she just go with the cops? And Freeman even asks her that. He's like, we didn't have a charge on you. Why did you come with us? And she's basically like, well, it seemed like you needed something. Like,
Right.
she just treats it. She doesn't have a guilty conscience because
Right.
she's done nothing wrong.
She's not living by the code of the street.
She seems like, well, it must be important.
Yeah. I'm not in the
Right.
street.
She's like, well, it must be important if you're like, yeah. And that's when it clicks with, like, oh, Freeman, that, like, there's this woman is different than the other people that they would have talked to, So yeah, and Omar goes to prop Joe with the vials and says, like, we need to I want to make a proposition for you, just in terms of the same way. He says, I give you all these vials for free. You tell me where Avon Barksdale is. And Prop Joe makes a good point. He's like, well, Avon's providing me with all this money, but now you want to give me, you know what I mean? He's weighing in his head, like, what's the better option? Do I continue to make money through the Barksdale, like, doing business with them? But now I can get all this free drugs I can sell, and I won't have any competition.
Yeah.
And his mind's like, all right, it's a win. I can get rid of the competition, and I can make more money that way.
And like he said, and sick your predatory
ass
on him. He
This
said,
is another thing. Go ahead.
He said, and just so I can sick your predatory ass back on him. Yeah, not Avon's kind of thing. Like,
this is another thing, how it's reiterated to us how badass Omar is. It's like, you just stole, Avon Barksdale's chasing you all over town. You have time to steal his stash.
And you know what, too? This is the note I took down from that scene. It's a sharp contrast from season 4, Prop Joe and Omar's interaction, because Prop Joe is kind of like, I'm not scared right now. Like, why not just throw you up out of here? Like, I'm not really fearful. In season 4, when he is talking to Omar, oh no, it's definitely a fear in season 4 for sure. No question at all. Like, it's definitely a sharp contrast from that interaction to the season 4 interaction, especially when Omar gets out of jail and he pulls the big 50 cal gun on him. He's like, he about to shit himself. Like,
I just find it hysterical that Omar broke a clock just to think of a badass line and go in there.
Yeah.
And Prop Joe actually fixes the clock too. It's like,
Omar's fearless in that way.
I got to say, ran out of time. Ronaldo, hand me that clock over there. Bang!
I mean, that's probably the biggest handgun I think I've ever seen. Like, in any, like the gun that Omar pulled out on Prop Joe. That's the biggest handgun I've ever seen. Like,
yeah.
All right, where we at, Jesse? We should be at the end.
But yeah, no, it's very cool the way he just like fearlessly throws him all this stolen drug money. He just is like, he's on a mission. Yep. And he gets the information about where Avon is. He finds out, okay.
He gives him Weebay pager. He gives him
the pager code.
He gives him 07.
Pager code, and he's able to find out where they are. Avon comes outside with Weebay, and because Weebay went to the diner to pick up food for him and Orlando, and then they go outside.
Omar's dialing the code. He's dialing the beeper code.
Mm-hmm. Omar, he's pretending to be Weebay so that he can go outside. Omar attacks him with the gun and starts shooting at him. Omar gets shot, right? And the last line is something like, Weebay is like, hey, I got your back, Avon. And like they're both just like wondering where the hell Omar is. And the episode kind of ends there. It's very like a cliffhanger ending.
It was I mean, how badass would it have been if this would have been the end of Avon? If Omar succeeded.
Man,
I mean, the show takes a whole different direction, but I mean,
yeah. If he
Omar,
had got him,
if he had got him, Omar's legacy goes into top notch.
yeah,
Yeah.
legendary. And you know what? Finishing off, I just got a question. Okay, I need to know what diner that they went to, because that means Wee-Bey went whatever food he was gonna get. He got
I know
a
it must have been
cheesesteak.
down the block because he got down back quickly. But
He got a cheesesteak,
Mhm.
a cheeseburger, and whatever he was
They
gonna
didn't have
get
no
in less than 3
fries.
minutes.
But I don't
Right,
think,
yeah.
I don't think it was 3 minutes. I think that's the time we see it in.
Right,
Because
but
I
it's
think
supposed to be
Omar,
more.
Right.
I think Omar pages him. He sees it, waits another 5 minutes, pages him
Something
again,
like that. Pages and back.
waits
Right.
another 5 minutes.
I
You know,
figured. I'm just
Yeah.
nitpicking.
No,
It's an
no, no.
implied,
But
yeah. It's an implied
I've,
time
I've,
delay.
Yeah.
I've seen people comment that before, and I think throughout the pages that the fact that Wee-Bey
Right.
keep paging them, we got to figure that Omar's not
It's
just
time in
consistently
between.
putting there.
Yeah, facts.
It's
Facts.
not meant to be in real time. It's It's implied time delays. But
I
it
mean,
shows that Omar is very clever too by using the pager number to contact Avon. You know what I mean? He's got a few tricks up his sleeve too.
It's funny. My dad was a police officer. Before this, he said, the most realistic show was NYPD Blue, and he was I was like, but a case doesn't get solved in an hour. He's like, well, time. He kind of explained, well, this time, time constraint,
it takes time.
you put it in the hour, the days and the hours and stuff.
And Jesse, you want to finish us off with your top actors of the episode, and then
Sure.
Jack and I'll finish.
Well, I guess like Jack said, a big Seth Gilliam episode, Carver.
Yeah, Carver.
Wood Harris,
Dominic
on the
Lombardozzi is hurt.
The famous finger shake, and I think those are my top two for the episode.
Yeah, I would agree too. I would say this is a big Avon episode, and a big, and honestly, Chardine too. I would say, great acting by her, really showing the betrayal of how she feels lied to and manipulated, and showing that transaction. And yeah, Herc and Carver, it's really showing them. You get the whole sense throughout the entire episode. I had to go outside because I'm having bad connection in my house. But
No
you
worries.
get the whole sense that oh, these guys are real big corrupt scumbags throughout the entire season. But in this episode shows that when they have the chance to do something like that, they choose not to. And for whatever, it's not because like we said, oh, they're better than that. They just don't want to get caught. But it shows that they're conflicted about who they are, and they're kind of lost about their identity and their role in the police department. So I would say, yeah, those are my 4 characters that I would say stand out in this episode.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Another 10 out of 10 episode. One of the best episodes of the season so far. Thank you, Jack, so much for being our narrator throughout these episodes. We appreciate it. This is Wiretapped Truths signing out. Please like, share, subscribe, comment. We're bringing you all a lot of different content over to finish the year, and just as we transition into season 2, you all will see some more interactions with the fans. We want to have people onto the podcast and just have other people give their opinions on the wire outside of our breakdowns. So just look for it and look for us to connect with you, and we appreciate all the love, support. Please share, like, subscribe. Wiretapped Truths signing out. We'll see you all next week.
Have a good week.